Hello, and welcome to another Drive-In Double Feature. I'm Ryan,
I'm Nathan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before I get into anything, we got a Patreon over at patreon.com/Drive-In Double Feature podcast. I get so many people talking about the Patreon because I went around my local Walmart parking lot and put flyers on everyone's windshields telling them
hmm
about our Patreon. And I left the
Every
web
week
address.
you're like, all these people are talking to me about it, and I overheard people. I didn't know we were that popular.
Yeah, or that popped. I mean, you got to get out there more, Nathan. That's all
I
I'm saying.
know. I think so. I think I spend too much time inside.
But yeah, they're like, I got your flyer. Love the Patreon. I love your games. I love your discussions. I love your fights. It's so much fun over there. I can't believe it's only $5 a month and it doesn't affect any regular content. And I said, you know what? You're right. Everything you just said is accurate. And
hmm
you know what? We thank you guys for it. But today we're going to be talking about 1971's Gamera versus Zigra. And once again, Nathan, it's directed by Noriaki Yuasa. He's
My
back.
favorite director this year.
He's gonna be. I mean, he's got at least one more in him.
Good Lord. We're gonna just do it. We might as well do his other movies, whatever the hell else he made.
Oh God, we'd be here all year. But 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 no, this one is a 1971 kaiju movie that's talking about the environment, about how bad it is. Doesn't that sound a little familiar to you, Nathan? What
I don't think
other?
so. There's never been like a monster movie to touch on topics like that, right?
Never. I was never think of a 1971 movie that came out a month before this one that dealt with the same topic.
Really? It was a month apart. So they didn't rip off of each other. It was just like coincidence. Like it was a big deal. Like I'm sure there was just smog everywhere.
Well, so this one, okay. I'm sorry. No, it's even less than that. So this one came out in July 17th.
hmm
Godzilla versus Hedorah came out on July 24th.
Holy crap. Wait, so
A
does that
week,
mean Godzilla is like, or this is like the Asylum version of the Godzilla
kinda,
movie?
kinda
Interesting.
is.
It's funny because that one's like one that we actually liked quite a bit.
And we're gonna continue to like them. You're right.
Yes.
Right. But it is funny. So I mean, like I said, this movie does deal a lot with environmental messaging because that really was a hot topic issue. You can go back and listen to our Godzilla versus Hedorah episode where I kind of explain it a little better. But basically, the long and short of it is that pollution was getting way out of hand in Japan, and a lot of people were getting really sick from it, and it was becoming like a real hot button issue over there. So much so that Japan started to clean up their act a little bit and actually had better conservation methods, and it led to a much cleaner Japan. But even though Tokyo Bay is still considered pretty nasty by most uh,
Mm.
by most opinions, so but still, nonetheless, they were trying to reduce a lot of their waste, and I think they've accomplished that. They did reduce a lot of their waste over there, but um, this one also deals with that messaging but this one specifically focuses on the oceans
Yes.
of Japan. Because Zigra is a giant shark monster. He's a giant shark that stands up.
Yeah. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah. And
It's probably one of the most simple Gamera monsters of all
I,
time.
I don't know. I'd argue Jiger was a little more simpler looking because that was just basically like a
Oh,
dinosaur.
I mean, okay, so not looking, but powers wise. But we aren't getting into
Oh,
the
yeah.
powers yet.
Oh, powers. You're right. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one it was a giant shark, but hey, Nathan, they're gonna take the plot in a totally different direction. Something that's never ever happened in a Gamera movie.
hmm
Little kids get abducted by aliens.
Oh my God.
A portion of the movie takes place on a spaceship with evil space women, and they have a giant
Evil
space
space
monster.
woman
Oh yeah,
this
woman,
time.
one woman, and there's a giant evil space monster, and Gamera gets hurt halfway through the movie, and you don't see him for a while. Does that sound different to you, Nathan?
Okay, not joking. Yeah, it's the same thing. We are treading the same water here, which is so funny because I remember thinking in Godzilla, like, yeah, we're doing like the same thing here. No, we get the Gamera, and it's like we are literally doing the same thing here, people.
Like honestly, like this movie made me appreciate Jiger that much more
Yeah,
because
me too,
Jiger,
actually.
like Jiger was such like a totally different plot, and it was not retreading. I mean, they did this exact same plot 3 times now. So they
Yes.
did this in Virus, they did this in Giron, and now they're doing it again in Zigra because it's the same exact plot. Two
Yeah.
kids get abducted, and they're having to deal with all this.
Yeah, it's really odd that they would just repeat there. I guess they're just like, it worked last time, we'll do it again. The kids will force their parents to go see it. But yeah, no, that's the thing. The Jiger, like the last one, I think it was like, wow, a breath of fresh air. Like when I watched that, I was like, oh, hopefully that means like this is like we got a new, breath of life in the Gamera because it was starting to wane a little bit, and I thought that was a nice one. And then no, we're kind of back to this. At least there is no oh
Stock
God,
footage.
stock footage. None here. We did leave that at the door. And I mean a little negative. I didn't hate it. It's Gamera. I love Gamera. I love seeing the guy.
No, I didn't hate it, but it's not very good either.
No, it's
And
not.
uh, so I think the theme, like we really have, they focused on, and a lot of the Gamera ones is obviously children. Like these movies are
Mhm.
made for children, but I would argue like the other ones seem more deemed towards like older side of kids, where it was more
Yeah.
like kids like maybe 8 to 10.
Preteen. Preteen
Yeah,
demographic. Yeah.
something like that. But like this one, like they go way down. Like this one
Yeah.
seems like this one. So like the main cast of this, like the two main kids in this one, which is Ken and Helen now. Kenichi and Helen.
Ellen. Yep.
And they are pretty much like kindergartners.
Yeah, it felt weird because I was watching this. I was like, oh, I haven't watched a movie like this in a while. Like this is like a little kid. I'm watching a movie starring two like you said, kindergartners, and it was just like, wow, I can't believe I'm watching something like this. This doesn't feel like something I would ever watch.
And again, don't
Ooh,
don't
ooh.
don't wanna
Uh,
don't wanna complain about children, but yeah, these kids are not good at
okay.
all.
I'm going to say it's not the kids' fault. These kids are so young
No.
that we can't complain about that. But the director making the choice to hire kids this young, I think, kills the movie because they're not up for it. They're not up for it at all. It really is awful to watch them. They are so bad, especially the little girl who has no emotion.
No. And I
Yeah.
mean, I totally agree with you. It's not the kids' fault. It's not their fault at all.
No.
And like I even and you know what? It wouldn't even be that bad if it was just one of them. And it
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
if they had gone in the direction they went with Jiger, because Jiger there was the little girl in that one, but it
Hmm.
was like they had the two older kids to kind of support like
Hmm.
the more of the acting, I guess you want to call it. But in this one, it's like very clearly like kids just like reciting lines.
Hmm.
And it's like, man, like this is not good. And this one though, they do involve the parents a lot more. So Nathan, I want you to remember. So we had before, we had Tom, we
Hmm.
had Tommy, went back to Tom. And what's this dad's name? His name is Tom, Nathan.
It's like these people that make these movies, they can't think of anything original. It's like, oh, okay, Tom. That's it.
I guess they just think of like what's the most American sounding name that they can think of.
Yeah. Tom or Mike, but there's no Mikes in these movies.
Yeah, no more Jims.
No Jims. Yeah, Tom. I mean, Tom is very American. I get it.
The only thing I could say, and this might be bad for me to say this, is that Tom, Japanese people like they want to make sure like the Tom, I think is
Oh,
very
yeah.
closer to sounding to like a Japanese name, like Tom, Tom. Like,
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong with that. It's an easy name to pronounce for sure.
and so they had to make it easy for Japanese people to say. So they don't they want to make it kind of easy for them. So I think that's why like they all have like three lettered names like that. So,
That makes sense.
but that's just my opinion. You can tell me I'm wrong later. But
Send us an email.
yeah. But yeah. So this one, it's very clear. Like they're trying to get these kids to be the stars of this movie, and there's some just like not even like the bad acting moments. Like there's just some like outright just like so dumb moments in this
Yes.
movie because so there's one or I'm this is jumping way ahead, but like for the so there's an alien woman on this, which turns out she isn't really the alien woman. She's not really an alien. She was an astronaut that was captured and she was hypnotized to think that she was the alien, and they kind of use her as like a human avatar type of thing. But she has the ability to hypnotize people and make them fall asleep. But they have a scene where she like steals somebody's bikini and then she's just like walking around in a bikini for like no reason.
Yeah.
And then
But she
and it's
changes
like
like costume like 5 times in that
yeah,
sequence.
she does. And then she goes and finds a woman with like a mini skirt and then she's walking on the mini skirt.
Yes.
um and then another point, so like she's able to disarm all these adults, zero problem whatsoever, but these like infants she's not able to subdue in any way.
Yeah, that's
And
because like normally it's like, oh, the kids outsmart the adults, but these are like little kids outsmarting adults, and they know the
what
answers to everything.
so like the funniest part of the movie, there's a scene where because she's trying to go after these kids because the aliens are basically like, no, we have to capture these specific kids because they know the secrets of everything, like they and
Uh-huh.
so she goes out and tries to capture these kids, and it turns out like she actually corners the kids in like their living room, and they stand up like, oh my god, it's her, and they like throw a teddy bear at her, but it's like she's like
Yeah.
like
It felt
just
like it felt like a home movie. Like this is like amateurs getting together.
yeah,
But did you hear the noise when the stuffed animal hits her? It sounds loud. Go
it
back.
does.
Yeah, I remember I rewound it and I was like, what the hell? Why is it so loud? Like, do you think she got hurt? It's like the kid threw something actually hard at her, but
Yeah,
scene is so bad because she chases them around the table, can obviously catch them. It's so obvious, but the
yeah,
kids run away.
cannot catch these children that do not have defined motor skills yet. And just
And they Scooby Doo their way through so much of this movie. Like that's a whole sequence of them hiding and then her not being able to get them, and it's like it's just like kind of embarrassing to watch.
yeah, it's not good, and there's a lot of scenes where she's trying to subdue these kids, but again, she can't
Mm.
do it. One of the big settings for this movie is SeaWorld. That
I had to look it up. I had to look up this Sea because I never heard of SeaWorld Japan or whatever. It's like a
Kamagawa.
specific Kamagawa, not affiliated with SeaWorld. Like no affiliation. They just called it SeaWorld. And it's still open to this day, but they do have killer whales in captivity there, which is oh, we all know the controversy there.
Yeah, somebody needs to show these people Black Orca already.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then they just get rid of them.
They changed their mind, yeah.
Yeah, that easy.
But no, they make a big deal about sea and fish and all that because like they all work at this Sea World type place,
Mhm.
and they experiment a lot with dolphins and whales, and they have like a scene where she's like gonna throw the kids in with like the killer whales, and they're like, no, no, and but if they find out, like once again, like loud noises like undoes all the hypnotism,
Yeah.
and but it's really dumb too because they go like just
Yeah,
and
they do
that
it like sonar. They it's so bad. But I don't know about you. Were you stressed out over the kids and her? Like they're like acting like getting thrown around, and the killer whales are in the background, like getting close to them, like swimming around the water, jumping around. I'm like, that could have been really bad.
Okay, so I listened to the audio commentary,
Oh, did
and
something happen?
no, no,
Okay.
no, but they do mention that in the audio commentary.
Yeah.
They mentioned that the parents of the kids were like very concerned
Yeah, I
about
would
them being
be.
so close to the whales. They're like, do we have to have them so close to the whales? Like,
Yeah, I would
eh,
be the same way.
and they're just like, no, no, it's fine, of course, you know. But
This is a movie, okay? Everything's
uh,
safe.
yeah. Oh, but I just wanted to mention that part. But we haven't mentioned Gamera yet at all in this Gamera
Yeah,
movie, and there's a big reason for that because Gamera's not in this movie very much.
yeah, it's sad because like I feel like I've always felt like these Gamera movies did a good job of having a good amount of monster in it. I think like I think for this one it's just because I kind of like the look of Zigra like quite a bit. I think it's actually a pretty cool looking shark monster, but because it doesn't do anything crazy and it's all underwater mostly, it just maybe they didn't have enough they could do with him. I don't know.
Yeah, he's got he's got a beam, which they all have beams,
But yeah, that's
and
common.
he's got really sharp dorsal fins.
Yeah. And
That's
yeah,
his.
I was just gonna say, and he could swim fast, but I would assume
Yeah, it'd be real. He's a shark that can't swim. That would be something.
he just stands still.
uh, but yeah, some Gamera moments I wanted to mention. So there's at the very first, like the very opening of the movie, where like because they go out into the rowboat, like wanting to like inspect like this giant spaceship. They're like, oh, let's go out. So like
Hmm.
the dads and the two kids get on the boat, and then they shoot a ray and they get abducted by these aliens and put on the ship. Gamera sees this happen, and like Gamera looks distraught that this has happened. Like he looks so upset. He starts screaming like because he just saw like he just saw these
No, the
people
kids.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that was funny. I also think it's weird on the spaceship how like the monster looks down at
Okay,
them.
I thought that was kind of cool looking. Like
Yeah, I mean, it was just it was odd.
it was a little odd, but I was just like, oh yeah, that's how I wasn't expecting it.
Mhm. But man, they've really skipped out on the spaceship sets because now it is literally like one room. Like remember, like before it's like a labyrinth and both of the other ones. This one it's one room.
And yeah, it's one room, and they don't
Hmm.
have anything cool other than like flashing lights.
Hmm.
Uh, so I want to go back to the commentary. So the commentary again, this was like this. It was two people, and this one was like a mixture of like the last commentary where I said it was really bad and
Okay.
somewhat informative. So it's like, okay, I
Okay.
got there was two people in this. One guy was like clearly like trying to give like a very informative
Hmm.
review, but like the other person was giving like it was like reacting to like such shallow
Oh.
observation. So like the spaceship in there, like it's got these little colorful lights on top of it and
Hmm.
everything. She's like, every time I see that spaceship, it makes me want to eat tricks. It's
Oh
like,
my God.
God, like,
Why did they and they paired these two together?
well, they wrote a book together on kaijus, so it was like,
Okay.
so that was like a whole thing. But she would just say stuff like, "I really love the mom's dress in this scene. Like, it looks so nice." And it's like, he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really." I mean, he's like trying so hard to like steer the ship. He's like, "Yeah, her dress is a great example of '70s fashion taking over at the time period." It's like he's really trying hard to like make this informative, and it's just like
I wonder who wrote most of the book. Hmm.
I don't want to take it. But she was clearly just happy to watch the movie,
She was having a good time.
and yeah. So I mean, there was like some informative parts in there, but one thing I thought was funny. So like, I remember David Callett was like going on this really passionate, like we talked about it before. Like
Yes, yeah.
he was talking about how much he loved, like how important dubs were,
Hmm.
And it's so funny because like this couple, like at the time, were just like, dubs suck. Like this is not like this is not how the director envisioned this movie. Like,
That's
and,
so funny.
which I mean, I agree watching that now, like as
Mhm.
an adult with an adult brain, but like,
Yes, yeah.
but I do agree what he was saying before. It's like I probably would have never watched these movies though if it was if it was
Yeah, if it
subbed.
was subbed, yeah, because when you're a kid, who's gonna, you wouldn't read a movie.
Right, exactly. So I just thought that was funny. So it was uh, still not a great commentary, but they tried type of thing.
Kind of funny. I guess like one moment I do love in this movie, it's kind of stupid, but so they end up in a submarine, the two kids and the dads, because they're gonna go help Gamera.
And they snuck onto the submarine too.
Yeah, and then they're just like, well, we have to take the kids. It's just the way it is. But there's a point in the movie where they're stuck and Gamera has to like save them. And like Zigra's like sleeping and he's like sneaking up. Like imagine like it looks like Gamera's like tiptoeing and like, he'd almost wake up like he's snoring, like going me, 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 me. Like he would open his eyes and he's like, oh, okay, nobody's there. And Gamera's sneaking. It is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It did make me laugh. So I will say I liked it. And then Gamera smacks him with a rock.
Yeah. Well, and then when Gamera steals the sub because he's trying to get them to safety, and he crash lands on shore, just like just like slides.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's like the whole plot of this one is just like they're trying to stop Zigra, and it turns out Zigra is actually the mastermind behind this whole thing, and
Yes.
the whole deal is Zigra is like, you need to surrender all your oceans to me and this planet, and because you clearly don't know how to manage this planet, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's like you guys have the best resources, and I can manage this a lot better than you can.
I think it's so funny because he's kind of a dick because they destroy his ship. And like he's like, well, now that you destroyed my ship, I'm gonna kill all of you and take your ocean. Because yes, he can talk, by the way.
Yeah, and yeah, very slow.
Mhm.
Very. It sounds like he's coming through like a tin can too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, and that's the other thing too. They're like he they do the same deal before, like they did in I think it was yeah, I think it was Beerus, yeah, where they basically are saying like, I'm going to destroy this sub, so four people are going to die if you don't surrender your whole
Yep.
planet to me. And they're just like, I guess we gotta give them up. Like this, like they're like, we're gonna surrender the whole planet for you now.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
like, because I remember like, and that other one, it was like the two kids were like, we're fine. If we got to die to save
Mhm.
the world, do what you got to do. And
They're
but
like, no, no, we won't.
it's just, like I get like the value of human. This is not me trying to go on like some nihilistic viewpoint, but it's like
The most cynical view of a Gamera movie.
I'm just like, okay, the choice of four, like it all works out in the end. I get it, but
Yes,
the
yeah.
choice of these four people living or giving up the whole planet, I mean, come
No,
on.
exactly. It's a bit far. I mean, like people would be like, what the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, it's like,
Um, but
and
I
all
mean, the
these
thought
people
of
die
like,
because all this.
but two of them are kindergartners. That like adds like they're young kids. I'm
They
like,
don't know what's going on.
yeah, the good excuse. Okay, now we're getting too cynical. Right.
They won't even know what hit them.
Yeah. Oh God.
No, I'm kidding. No, all human life's good. Nobody needs to die. Okay, all
We're
right.
in a happy Gamera movie, okay? Kids
But
live.
yeah, so like getting into like the actual like monster fights, they're not as interesting as before. That's
Hmm.
that's the other problem. I feel like the other one was like I feel like they were trying like really different ways, and there are some like gruesome moments where Gamera like goes into his shell, and then Zigra just flies across and slashes Gamera's shell, and he starts
Mhm.
bleeding like crazy. But I'm just like, before when we had Beerus like impaling Gamera and his limbs about like hanging on by a
Yeah.
thread, it's not as impactful.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's not the tension just isn't quite there. Or it's just not as fun to watch anymore.
No, and just the fights are not. I mean, like, okay, so they do take it above sea at a certain point because Gamera is
Hmm.
able to kind of like bear hug Zigra and take him out of the water, and Zigra is kind of standing on his own 2 feet type of thing.
Hmm.
But the big comedic moment in this one is Gamera like throws a rock on Zigra's like beak looking mouth,
Yeah.
and it sticks there, and Zigra falls down, and Gamera kind of pins him down,
Hmm.
and then Gamera picks up a big rock and starts playing Zigra like a xylophone, where it's like
Yeah.
do.
Great moment. That
Yeah,
moment I will give wonderful. Whoever came up with that
that was
is great.
brilliant. Yeah, that was
Yes.
brilliant. And
Yeah.
then, but I liked it too because Gamera was like, after he's done, he's like so pleased with himself. He's like, yeah, like,
Woo, I can make music.
yeah,
It's like his theme too, right? Like that's
yeah,
supposed to be his theme that he's playing.
yeah. And you do hear the Gamera theme a lot in this one too,
Oh
by the
yeah.
way.
Yeah. That's okay.
Uh, uh, but yeah, the movie just kind of like ends where Gamera has Zigra pinned. Again, they're just like, and the kids just start yelling out like, "Gamera, use your fire breath," and he just goes, "Okay," and then just and sets him on fire. I was like, man, why didn't he just do that in all the other movies? If he can just have
Right.
enough fire to incinerate a whole
Yeah.
monster.
Because I mean, doesn't he like burn him to like a crisp almost? Like that was
To,
actually a brutal scene in the movie.
he burns him. He burns him to. There's nothing left. Just
Yeah.
ashes at the end.
Yeah, that's messed up. That's brutal.
He just the whole monster just like goes up in flames, and you just watch it like fall apart to nothing but ash.
Yeah, which is
Uh,
that's a lot.
but God, there's other really dumb moments. There's a scene where they're trying, the kids are like being held by like the military or police officers or something, and they're like, it's okay, because they're trying to get them to describe what this woman looked like. So what did this alien woman look like? She
Hmm.
was really pretty, but not as pretty as my mom. She's like, no, my mom's prettier. And like, no, my mom's pretty. It's like, kids, both of your moms are pretty, okay? Like,
Yeah, because that's like these kids, like they're weird. So they have like this innocence. They say stupid things, but then they're like also extremely smart. And I think I don't remember specifically, but there's like a few times where they solve all of the issues. It's like, oh, you're right, kids. That is the
what?
correct answer, which is a theme of these movies. But they're so little.
Well, they do that like on the spaceship because they're like, oh, you guys are aliens. And it's like, see, the kids picked up right away. I don't know what the, but that's the theme though. It's like the kids are supposed to be the one that solves everything.
There's also that moment where they come back from the spaceship when they get out and they run into like the homeless man dressed in like seaweed. They're like, we traveled back in time. We are back in prehistoric era. And that's where you learn this movie set in 1997. Because they're like, no, we're
97?
they say 1997, don't they?
Do they?
Hold on. I'm pretty sure it's like we are in the year 1997. It doesn't look like it.
I remember. So one thing they did say in the commentary is that this movie came out on VHS in the 80s in the US, and the dub actually, when they asked them for the year,
Hmm.
it told them the 80s.
So I see here that it says 1985 on the Wikipedia, but I can tell you the subtitles that I put on it said 1997, which makes it a little sillier.
So I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
Hmm.
So we had two different subtitle tracks. We'll say that.
Yes, yeah, that's funny. But it
But
is the 80s. I mean, it's still the future.
no, I think it says the 70s. I'm telling, like I was saying
Oh,
in the
you're saying that
commentary,
it was the 70s, but the dub says the 80s.
the dub says the 80s because the dub was not released until the 80s. So
Got you. Okay.
when they were recording the dub, it was during the 80s. So like, oh, this was the 80s.
Gotcha. But they're saying it's 1971.
I do think this movie is set in current times for the
Gotcha.
movie. I do think that.
It's
So,
not like Godzilla, which is like it was kind of always
oh,
changing dates, or Friday the 13th.
oh yeah, like Destroy All Monsters, where it's just like, oh yeah, this is the 90s, and everyone's still like, like, like futuristic spacesuits.
Yeah. Silly.
Um, but yeah, it's overall pretty. Oh, one thing I do need to add. So I was telling you before about Daiei's financial woes.
Yeah.
This one received a budget of 35 million, so about $97,000
Oh my
for this
God.
movie. The movie was completed, but shortly thereafter, Daiei went bankrupt,
Oh my
and
God.
and Yuasa at the time was received his marching papers, pretty much saying like, we don't need you anymore, type of thing. And they were pretty much just like, Gamera's over, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where they were going to leave this year. This was going to be the final Gamera movie.
But it isn't. I know that. But I mean, it
It's
was the
not.
final one for a long time.
For 9 years, it was the final Gamera movie. So at the time, like I said, they were just, Daiei was not able to keep up. They went bankrupt, weren't able to pay off all their debts. So Daiei was officially died.
It sounded like they should have died years ago.
It sounded like they mismanaged their money very poorly. And this one did not really do as well as the other ones as they hoped, as you can see, because it did not save them from bankruptcy.
No.
So, but like I said, there will be another Gamera movie, and Yuasa will return for at least one more of these Gamera movies. So don't worry, we got one more left in the can. So, awesome. But I think, like we said, overall, this one's pretty skippable in my opinion. It's like it's not very good. Not, I didn't hate it, but
yeah,
it's definitely one that I would not seek out.
No, it's good for a laugh, but yeah, no, don't watch this Gamera movie. And I probably will, if I were like, oh, I want to rewatch Gamera, or I probably wouldn't watch this one. I'd probably only watch like a couple, but still, like this one's definitely not high on the list.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that's going to do it for this episode, Nathan. So, what are we going to talk about next week?
All right. Well, next week, you know what? We are back at it with recommendations. I want to do a recommendation. I got an email that was literally a poster of this movie telling us to do it. So, we're going to be talking about 1986's Rad. And that one is not streaming anywhere. I'm excited to watch that one. But Ryan, what are you going to be talking about on Thursday?
You know, Nathan, I really do like a good thriller every now and then. So, Nathan, we're going to be talking about The Eyes of Laura Mars. Cool. And that one is streaming over on the Criterion channel right now.
Awesome. I'm excited to watch that.
Yes. But if you have any thoughts and opinions about this podcast, please don't hesitate to email us over at drive-in-double-feature-podcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on X at DIDFpod. And once again, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/drive-in-double-feature-podcast. But until next time.
Until next time.